KwaZulu-Natal's Public Works and Infrastructure MEC, Mr. Martin Meyer, is marking his first 100 days in office with a special focus on significant achievements as well as developments during his tenure. He joins us now in studio to share some insights as well as updates on some of the progress that has been made since he took over this very pivotal role. MEC, what a great pleasure having you with us. Good afternoon. Welcome to SA Today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful being in our sister province of Gauteng and being here with you today.
Well, you've been very elusive, MEC. We've been looking forward to chatting with you since the days of the budget cuts to 350 Rand. Now I understand. But let's talk about the fact that you've had to navigate the first 100 days within the GNU through treacherous terrain. It hasn't been easy. How has it been for you particularly?
Yeah, I think I still sometimes wake up and have to remind myself I'm no longer in opposition. I'm now in government. I'm an MEC and the problems are mine to fix.
It must be strange.
It is quite strange. It's been a mindset change. But luckily I've always loved a challenge and this is a challenge. But it's not a challenge that cannot be overcome. You know, I'm overwhelmed on a daily basis by the resilience of the people of KwaZulu-Natal, by the peace-lovingness of the people of KwaZulu-Natal, and by this new spirit that we find where people stop me in the street and say it's like 94 again in KwaZulu-Natal. And I think that is giving me the energy and giving me direction to know that what I'm supposed to do and who I serve in the end of the day.
Now, as a KZN Durban girl, MEC, I'm very excited about this news that you've come to share this afternoon. So it's no secret, MEC, that when you took over your role as well as position in the current administration, you were quite the mover and shaker, not making you necessarily the most popular member to join the department. So let's talk about some of your decisions. First of all, the notable changes that you have detected, starting from budget cuts to internal reforms in your departments. Let's talk about those.
Well, I think the first one, and as you referred to, is the budget speech. In the past, I would spend 300,000 Rand on the budget speech, printing it on glossy paper, giving goodie bags and those type of things. And I said, no, we will print it on normal A4 paper, hand it out, no goodie bags, no guests and dinners and lunches. And we only spent 320 Rand at the end of the day in our budget speach, down from 300,000 Rand a year before. Because unnecessary money does not serve the people. Every cent that Public Works spend must be spent on the people of KwaZulu-Natal. That's as simple as that. Another big notable move that we made that caused some waves is that all bid adjudication committee meetings, so where tenders are being discussed, and all committee meetings where appointments are discussed, where people apply for jobs, all that is now recorded, both audibly and visually, and those recordings are then saved, so that there can be no funny business in these interviews. If there's appeals, we can very quickly bring up those recordings. They are stored on the cloud, and we can say, all right, this is exactly what happened. It doesn't only protect the people of KwaZulu-Natal from corruption, it also protects the officials from false allegations of
so
corruption.
You've gone completely digital
So we've gone digital now. We're also moving in the process of making everything digital. The department I inherited was fully paper-based.
But it's about time, MEC.
Yes, it's the 21st century.
We're living in the AI,
Absolutely.
You know, the times of AI already. We should have already reintegrated the system long before this time. So how is that working currently?
You know, it is a slow process. Making changes is not always that easy, and there's budgetary constraints, like any government department will tell you. But we're working very fast in making everything, like even bids. Bids is paper-based. You still have to go to an office and put a bid into a post box. It's very difficult for people living in rural areas that's far from our district offices to then bid for work that we're doing in their areas. So we're going fully digital with all of this. We're digitizing internally. The ministry office has now been fully digitized already, and we're going to expand it to the rest of the department. Because also digital things is much harder to manipulate. Paper you can manipulate, you can change, you can make a piece of paper get lost.
Absolutely.
Once something's submitted digitally, that cannot happen. And even, you know, I get these stories, and it breaks my heart, where people put in tenders, small companies, new up-and-coming companies from previously disadvantaged people, and their bid is disqualified because they missed one tick box. If it's electronic, you can't press submit until you've ticked everything. So it will then tell you, hang on, you've missed this. Because people are being excluded, just the process is so difficult. So we want to simplify the process, make it digital, make it much harder to manipulate the process, and make sure that our department then serves the people of KwaZulu-Natal.
MEC, you were also very vocal. I think it must have been your very first interview after being appointed into your role that I watched, and you emphatically said that you will not be negotiating with extortion mafias. So talk to us about that, and what are the current mechanisms in place? Because we've seen seen that the scourge is actually going higher. They're finding new ways to actually extort money out of businesses, and even some businesses in KZN are in support of these extortion mafias, calling them people that have been sidelined in terms of business. So you've got quite a lot working against some of the measures that you plan to instill.
I think firstly it's important to distinguish between business forums who come and want to legitimately talk to us and the construction mafia who commit criminal acts. So we will not negotiate at all. If you come with guns, if you come to intimidate, if you come and disrupt our work sites, we will not negotiate. If you come to us under the flag of truce, and we recently had talks with the biggest business forum, which is the Black Business Federation, and we had very successful talks, and they stood up and they said, listen, they also condemn these acts of violence and disruption of our sites.
Of course, it affects their profits as well.
Absolutely. So, you know, once we've distinguished between the two, it became a lot easier for us. I think now that there's also a strong political will from all three spheres of government. We see the President talking about it, we see Minister McPherson talking about it, the Premier is talking about it, the MECs across the 9 provinces are talking about it. So now the police are taking a lot more action, NPA is taking action. KwaZulu-Natal, under our Chief of Police there's been a lot of action now from the police. We're also trying to be more proactive. So a part of the problem is that we as a department created space for the construction mafia previously, but not engaging with the communities enough about the 30%, about becoming part. So now we're starting right when we start drawing up the plans for, let's say we're building a school, we go to the communities and we say, do you have bricklayers? If they say no, we say, all right, we'll bring someone in to teach you how to be bricklayers. Like social labour plans,
basically.
We'll help you to register your companies with SARS. We'll help you do the tenders. So that by the time a year later we start building, the community is ready, they organize, and they have the skills that's needed. And that will close the gap for these so-called construction mafia, because they are not Robin Hood. They do not come to steal from the rich to give to the poor. They are stopping service delivery that's supposed to serve the poor of KwaZulu-Natal. And Menzi High School being a very good example. It's 3 years later and the kids of that school still have to go to those dilapidated classrooms because we weren't able to finish the school. But we're back on site, we're building, and we will finish that school.
MEC, look, I mean, maybe as we wrap up our interview, we've also seen raids. You were just talking about a lot more activity and action in collaboration with the police. Now, we've seen in collaboration with police as well as Home Affairs some raids in the inner city. Now, it makes me so happy to see improvements in Africa's playground, MEC, because we know places like Point Road, the workshop, the beachfront were all places we used to roam about, walk about freely. But of course, the criminals had largely taken over through acts of prostitution, drugs, as well as other acts of criminality that is currently taking place in the city centre. You can't even walk to the beachfront at night. So let's talk about how you plan to overhaul all these things in there.
So I think a very important part of it is that we no longer want to be part of the problem, because a lot of those dilapidated buildings belong to the department, unfortunately, and we want to be part of the solution. On the 18th and 19th of November, we will have what we call the Build KZN Better Conference. eThekwini will be a major role player in that conference, and we're going to be very open in saying these are the properties we own, these are the dilapidated properties we own. We'll bring in the private sector, NGOs, the Durban Chamber of Business, the Pietermaritzburg Chamber of Business, sit down with them and say, how can we work together? What can we do with these dilapidated buildings? How can we improve them? What can we do with them? Make them bring people in for tourism, because tourism is the lifeblood of KwaZulu-Natal and of Durban. And we want to be part of the regeneration of the inner cities, not only of eThekwini, of Pietermaritzburg, of Escort, Newcastle, all the towns in KZN. We want to be part of the solution, making those places better, bringing people in. We're building beautiful tourism buildings outside of Ngoma, at the Royal Palaces, where the redance will happen in future.
So you haven't forgotten
We have not forgotten about the rural areas. That's a multi-million rand project, and it's a beautiful. When that dome is finished, and we'll invite you all when we open it, it's going to be a landmark across the world where people will now want to come and see these cultural festivals, the redance and other festivals. It's a stunning building. And that's all a part of our regeneration and rebuilding KZN Better plan.
MEC, I wish we had more time. Unfortunately, we have run out of time for this particular interview. But thank you so much, and best of luck for the next 100 days. Hopefully, we'll see you then. That is the MEC for Public Works and Infrastructure in KwaZulu-Natal, Mr. Martin Meyer, is, of course, gauged the first 100 days in office under the GNU.